The Beatles just never get old for me. Hey, everybody, how are you? I hope you're doing well on this Sunday. And we're going to get into it. Was Ringo Starr a good drummer? Well, it depends who you ask. It depends if you're talking about technical precision, proficiency, um, feel, many reasons to really talk about this, especially if you're a music fan, especially if you're a Beatle fan. Because look, Ringo was in arguably the most iconic band in the history of pop rock. But is he one of the greatest drummers of all time? Or is he only famous because he was a Beatle? Probably a little of both. He's one of the most well known drummers of the 20th century. And Beatle fans, if you ask them, think he's underrated because he's had his fair share of haters, because technically he's not considered a great drummer. Now, we're going to look at it objectively here. We're going to explain why he's such a great player. Player, I say, not drummer. Drummer, singer, songwriter, band leader, rock and roll pioneer, right? He was right there. He's responsible for making drumming look cool. And I don't think many can argue that. And he probably inspired many people to take up drumming. Now, personally, I don't think he inspired me to take up drumming when I became a drummer around 9 years of age because it just was cool, drums. But whether he's playing with the Beatles, the All Star Band, his approach, his one of a kind approach, sets him apart from other drummers. And he also played bits that elevated songs. So if you don't think he should be recognized as groundbreaking because he doesn't play impossible technical parts, well, maybe after this little broadcast here, you'll think differently. And I hope you do. I truly do. Hey, Maria, how are you? Now, one reason I always felt that Ringo had such a unique vice on the drums, he's left handed and he plays on a right handed setup, snare left, across, tom toms. You can hear how often he uses his left hand to play accents and keep the time on the hi hat. And he executes this with fills leading with his left. So he comes over. So he'll come over like this. That's why he moves the head. Now, he has a unique way of hitting the drums. He does a windshield wiper hat, which is mostly like this. He dances. He makes the cymbal dance, Zelgin, whatever, crash cymbal. And he executes it wonderfully. Now, he also has a very unique way of hitting the drums other than the hi-hats because he throws his shoulder into the groove while he drums. And it almost gives it a swing feel. But he's also known for his simplicity. Unlike many drummers who are known for their technical prowess, right, speed, pert, you want to go to Ginger Baker, you want to go to sloppy fills like Keith Moon, who wasn't technically great, he was just great. Uh, the Beatles' music didn't call for a showy drummer. Just didn't. They needed a drummer who could write the right parts. Especially that Paul McCartney was a frustrated drummer, pretty good drummer in his own right, not Ringo. So when Paul wrote a song, he knew what he wanted to hear because he was a drummer. Listen to the song "In My Life." While many drummers, if you know music, may have played an eighth note on the hi-hat groove, Ringo hits it once per bar. Um, and that note placement makes a big difference in that song. Um, Love Me Do, a kick snare and a hi-hat the entire song. The fills and Let It Be. Hey Jude, no crash. Hey Jude, I'll try to show you. Uh, Make it better. Um, why hit the cymbal for the sake of hitting it? And I think that's what Ringo felt. Many drummers hit it just for the sake of, oh yeah, I'm there. No, he decides what fits the music, and he oversimplifies at times, and his oversimplification almost looks like genius. He knows how to serve a song well on drums. It's like some people, you go out to dinner, the presentation is amazing. The food's not any better, but you'll swear it is because the presentation. That's Ringo. He's a perfect drummer for the Beatles. Would he be for the Stones? Well, Charlie Watts on his hi-hats was always a split behind the snare. That's why he had that sound, Charlie Watts. But without Ringo's creativity, I don't think the Beatles would have sounded as original. They would have been the Dave Clark Five, Jerry and the Pacemakers, with better songs. He created drum parts that you wouldn't typically hear in the 60s and 70s. He plays a tom-tom hi-hat, bridge and something. The unconventional opening to Come Together, right? Like a shuffle. In the song Ticket to Ride, he doesn't play a metronomically correct groove. It's just his signature style. He plays quarter note triplets in Day Tripper and She Loves You. Atypical drum solo in the end. He never played drum solos. And for those who think that Ringo can't hang with anyone in common time, Here Comes the Sun. He alternates 5/4/4/4. The bridge of Happiness is a Warm Gun is 9/8/10/8. So he sticks half notes in incredibly. But he created, I think, the Ringo groove. Hey G, how are you? He created the Ringo groove. Now, the Ringo grooves are legendary because Come Together. Come Together was early Africa by Toto. Or Come Together. What is it? It's just slower. And he played it counterclockwise, starting with the floor tom, because he's left-handed. But if you check out the isolated tracks on some of these on YouTube, you can see he's descending from left to right. I think he is anyway. He might be, direct inject where he's putting stuff in after the song's recorded. I'm not sure. But most drummers, they opt for a backbeat. But Ringo plays an eighth on the floor tom with quarter notes going on the kick. And it takes, it's an ability that he has to get people dancing and grooving in such a simple part. Tomorrow Never Knows, While My Guitar Gently Weeps. It's almost as recognizable as Come Together. And the solo song Back Off Boogaloo features a trademark snare pattern into the intro. Uh, and he claims he wasn't able to play it on the bass drum under the groove. That's why he played it that way. So he does have shortcomings, and he'll admit to you that he has shortcomings. His drum fills, though, are funny because Ringo is kind of a goof. He's not technically great. He's a basic offbeat drummer. Funny fills because he plays left-handed and he can't roll around the drums like a right-handed player can. But his fills are memorable. But he had his own formula of writing what he's going to play. He'll play 2 16th notes following by a 16th note rest and a group of 4 or 5 16th notes. You could hear that structure. 2 16ths followed by a 16th, and then a group of 4 or 5 16ths, Golden Slumbers, Octopus's Garden. She said, Sergeant Pepper. He's a big fan of triplets. Listen to Oh Darling. Great. And someone who played triplets like Ringo a bit was John Bonham. Now, Ringo has left a legacy. He has. Because most people reserve talk of legacy when people are no longer with us. Right? Generally speaking. Ringo has had massive impact on multiple generations of drummers. And he's still alive and kicking, so to speak. He'll be 86. His playing progressed as the Beatles progressed. He was simpler in the beginning as the Beatles were. As they became more complex, so did his parts. And so did his feel. He had wonderful feel. Compare tracks like Twist and Shout, Please Please Me, to Help the Skelter, and I Want You, She's So Heavy. And you'll see right away, you wouldn't believe it's the same drummer. People like rhythmic impressiveness, physical impressiveness, but they forget about the main thing, the music. Ringo understood the role of the drummer, not to bleed over the lead vocal or the guitar solo. In unison with the bass and drums, steady beat. He had that steady 4 in the bar, and you always knew where he was going to be when you were playing, and you knew where he'd come back. Now, you see that in the All-Star Band, different artists had songs that were later than the 60s. So like power chords in the 80s were much different than chords in the 60s. Drumming changed, music evolves. But, look at a song like I Feel Fine, Ticket to Ride. Wouldn't be the same, those songs, without Ringo's unique drumming. The drums mirror the bass perfectly and come together. And it's a theme that's very recognizable. In My Life, the 1 hi-hat per measure. If you're a drummer, you know what I'm talking about. From Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Lynch found inspiration and started playing like Ringo a bit. And funny enough, Tom Petty became George Harrison's good friend. It's always in the same circle. But not only because Ringo was in one of the biggest bands of all time that guys started drumming as well as ladies, because he became the guy in the background to a hero. Ringo dances while he plays. And that's why he always, they raised his drum kit. He was one of the first that the drum kit was raised in back of the guys. They were one of the first bands to do that in concert because of his swing. He changed the perception of drummers. You see Elvis Presley, Buddy Holly, when they played with their drummers, you couldn't see the drummers. The audience couldn't see the drummers. All of a sudden, what you sit on is called the riser. All of a sudden, Ringo. You actually saw Ringo before the guys in the front because he was raised like this mythic figure, leading the way. He wasn't in the shadows. Drummers weren't in the shadows anymore. Ringo was on a riser when the drummers started doing it. Now every drummer's on a riser, right? And he compressed the drums and cymbals the way he tuned. It was a real game changer. And he had great time. He didn't record to a click track. Usually you have a click track in rear. They always played as a unit. Ringo listened to the vocals. He never wanted to get in the way of the vocals. And that's why he was so mundane in his approach. So whether you're a fan of Ringo or not, there is no doubt that he is amazing. Drumming is my madness. A lot of fills in that song. Have I played? I taught the drums. Yeah, I'm a drummer. I enjoy the drums because you're building the song from within. People don't realize the bass player and the drummer are very important parts, and they get overlooked quite a bit, unless you are amazing like Neil Peart, who was actually a band leader. He was a conductor within the band. But now, could Ringo be a good studio musician? Probably not. You have to be able to read music. Now, being a drummer is one of the few positions on the ball field, so to speak, where you don't have to necessarily, as a studio musician, be able to read music. If they trust you enough to do your own fills and tell you, I want 4 in the bar. If you give me notes on a guitar, I don't read music. I play by ear. But if I write a song and call the guitarist and I want this done, say I knew how to write it, you have to know how to write it and read it. Ringo, you could read the fills and all that, but I'll give you a perfect example. I don't believe in Beatles. I don't believe in. Alan White did a different fill in every bar. Ringo's new stuff is excellent. That new song he has, Maria, is great. It's really good. It really is. Because Ringo always loved country. That's why, if you notice, on every Beatle album, usually Honey Don't, Ringo was a big country fan in the 60s. He loved. I haven't seen Man on the Run. I'm going to watch it. I feel, back in the day, as soon as it came out, I would have watched it. When the anthology came out, I told you, I was at the record store, Tower Records, at midnight when it got released. Didn't get up to my house till like 7 a.m. because I listened in the car. I couldn't even break away from the car to the steps to get to my. Now, when the anthology came out, for some reason, Man on the Run, I don't know. Maybe because I've seen so much Paul McCartney. I feel that I've probably seen everything that's covered. You're talking to a guy that's read 80 Beatle books. I'm being serious. Mitch and I went to a Beatle Fest, and the experts asked me to come up. I'm kind of a historian with the Beatles. And the instrumentation that they used, Paul going to a heavier bass. The Hofner bass is a violin bass. It's very light. He went, I don't know if he went to the Rickenbacker. He went for Taxman and around that time, he went to a heavy bass. But Ringo's country song is excellent. He still sings like Ringo. Nothing special. But if you remember on the Beatle albums, always country. Honey Don't. Trying to think of the songs he did. Always very, very influenced by country. Marie, I've read many books on that. Yeah. Paul went to Scotland to his farm in Scotland, came back around Christmas time into London. He lived on in St. John's Wood, a couple of blocks from Abbey Road Studios, and he had to get away. And he cleaned up. He was not taking a bath, drinking heavily. Linda really got him out of it. He almost had a big problem. Life magazine came to find a reclusive beetle, and they were taking pictures, and he ran out with a bucket of water and soaked them. Then thought better of it, chased them down the street and said, "Look, I'm sorry, man. If you don't show that, I'll give you a full interview with pictures. Just let me clean up. I'm very sorry." And the Life magazine got the pictures. They were staged pictures. McCartney wasn't in a good mood at that point. And I'll tell you why. In the beginning, I don't think any of the Beatles really thought that was it. In fact, I know that they had a meeting in September after Abbey Road. And they were talking about a new album. John would do 4, George and Paul 4, and they would have one for Ringo. They were talking about doing another album after Abbey Road, and then John just said, "I want a divorce," a week later. From what I had heard, Paul had a very big problem with Alan Klein. He wanted his in-laws, the Eastmans, to look over the Beatle affairs. Paul was getting very highbrow at that time, listening to all the classical and all that. And Linda's family was uppity Scarsdale, New Yorkers. And I think that they felt that they thought that Linda was a fad. Paul went through girls like you go through socks. And I think they all thought, well, when he breaks up with Linda, he'll come back to us. He'll be okay with Alan Klein. But, Linda and that family has his ear right now, and they're brainwashing him. What happened was he never left Linda. But I think in the beginning, look, John said a lot of things. I want a divorce, and he loved the Maharishi too, and then didn't like him. John could have said, "I want a divorce," and then tomorrow called them, "Let's start an album." John was very, very erratic. John walked in once and called a press conference and said, "I want you guys to know I'm Jesus." Yeah, okay. Because he must have been tripping. John would change his mind constantly. So I think that Paul probably felt he's going through a phase with Yoko, and that eventually he'll want to go back. Yeah, gee, he's tremendous. Yeah, Linda did. I got to watch the movie, Maria. But yeah, Linda did save him. Now, I think a little of the reason that he wanted Linda in the band is he saw John doing stuff with Yoko. Think about it. They got married within a few weeks of each other. He plays with Yoko. He takes Linda in. There's a lot of economy there. But Ringo was the perfect personality. I told people in my short, about 2008, I went to Memorial Day weekend. I went up near Lincoln Center. I had been watching Ringo Rama, and there was a DVD attached to that CD that had Mark Hudson in the band, and he was producing and all that. Well, I see Mark Hudson walking down the street, the tie-dye goatee, different colors. "Hey, Hudson." I got nervous. I forgot his first name. He starts talking to me. And he said, down near the Dakota, John lived right over there. I said, "Yeah, I know." And I said, what did you think of the anthology? As well, I think it was very sanitized. That was very sanitized. Even if you look at the new anthology, Yoko is not covered in there at all. George freaked out. She was sitting on an amp. You only see her knitting. You don't see the other things. They sanitized it. I don't think Paul, George, and Ringo wanted to start any wars. They were super nice to each other. Now, I know also that I had heard from Jack Douglas's nephew that George, the only reason that George did the anthology was he was almost going to go bankrupt. He got robbed out of a ton of money when Handmade Films with his partner, and he needed the money. Drumming is My Madness is a great song, Maria. You know what? Screw it. I'm going to lose my 10 cents I'll make for this, but I'm putting it on for you guys. That's just the kind of dude I am. Let me find it. I will get it. It's he does a great job on the song. It's from one of his early albums, probably 71 or something.
Drumming is my madness. Drumming is my business. Drumming is my pleasure. Drumming makes me happy. Drumming makes me lose control.
Great song. Great song. Ringo, most of the time in his albums, he'll mention the Beatles. When I drummed with that band, and at first I was at Rory Storm and Hurricanes, that's his niche. Ringo capitalizes on being a Beatle. There's nothing wrong with it. Nothing wrong with it. You do what you can to make money. But I think Ringo was the perfect personality. Now, Mark Hudson had told me that, you know, George would never talk about the Beatles. John was gone for many years. Paul rewrites history. Paul tells it the way he wants you to think it. Paul likes being in a band. Paul liked being with the Beatles. That's why he started Wings. Paul likes being in a band. He's a workaholic, and he likes the camaraderie. The other guys could sit in the yard for a year and do nothing. Paul McCartney could never just sit in the backyard for a year. He's always involved with something. Workaholic, and actually, it turned the Beatles off toward the end. John Lennon had said, "Oh, I get it. You want a job." You know, oh no, Frank, really? Oh, Frank, I'm sorry. Prayers out to Frank. Frank's in the hospital. Frank has a. If you took every gangster from 1920 and took all their rap sheets and just put it on one page, Frank's medical report's longer. I'm so sorry, Frank. That's amazing. It's incredible. You just don't get a break, or when you get a break, you get a very short break. I'm sorry, Frank. That's disturbing. Um, well, hopefully, music. If you're in there, you're listening to some music. I hope you are, because it can be soothing. Not, I understand what you're going through. It doesn't help probably a lot, but um, you just have been through the ringer, my friend. You really have. And there comes a time when it's like, when is it my time to be able to rest? It's incredible. You've gone through so much. Your oxygen is 86. Oh my God. That's terrible. So I guess you have oxygen right now. Oh, I'm sorry, Frank. Well, just, I know it's easy to say from here, but hang tough. Oh, that's what it is, the fluid. During the pandemic, I was sitting in my house. I had COVID. I knew I had COVID. I tested. It's funny. I said the word pandemic not to get in trouble, and I said the word COVID 8 times in 4 seconds. Um, Sitting on the couch, and my oxygen went to like 84. I got myself in the car. Didn't want to worry my son. I drove to St. Francis Hospital. Now, my ex-fiance is a surgeon at Columbia Pres. She met me there, so I didn't have to wait. Although I don't think I would have waited anyway, walking in blue. But my doctor, my heart doctor, is Dr. Schlafnitz. I don't need a heart doctor, but being diabetic, and he's the best in the country if you read about him. He did Mike Francesa, Robin Williams, Clinton, and they didn't want to give me heparin. Oh no, they did give me heparin. It didn't work in the stomach. They brought me into the OR, and they went through my elbow and dissolved the clot. And then I went up to 97 right away. He said, no, with diabetes, we're not waiting. And they did it. It was scary. I remember I don't ever remember I can't believe I got that 22 or 25-minute drive to St. Francis. I did it myself. I don't know how I did it. But, you go on overdrive when you think you're dying. Yeah, I'm sorry. Fluid in your lungs, urinary tract. Hard, yeah. Well, that's because you're not expelling water. I would think they gave you Lasix, right? Heavy duty Lasix would dry up the fluid. I'm sure you're on Lasix. Um, well, that's terrible, Frank. I'm so sorry. Yeah, 80 milligrams of Lasix. Um, yeah, all our prayers with Frank. And again, prayers out. I don't know what happened to my friend Joe Coltrane. Used to talk to him often on here. I used to text him, and he's disappeared for 2 months. I'm worried sick. I've left messages on his phone. I've texted him. Joe had a widowmaker heart attack a few years back and survived. And I'm just praying that he's okay. I really am. It really bothers me. I shudder to think what it could be. I don't have any other number but that number. I don't, G. I don't. I went as far as to look for obits in Massachusetts, where he lives. I didn't see anything. It really, I'm very concerned. It bothers me very much. Like, I think about it every day. Um, I almost pray that he got busted, because at least that would mean that he's okay. Now, I don't want him to be, and he didn't do anything like that. He was a legit guy. But I just hope he's okay. Don't know. I've left messages, and I even left a message on there. If someone can call me back, maybe his phone was locked and they didn't know. I just don't even want to think. It's terrible. But hopefully he's okay. hope one day he pops in. Oh, it's just been crazy, Ben. I'm okay. But I just get the feeling it's not. And it bothers me a lot. But, our music experience is different. We listen to songs differently. We appreciate music differently. If you're a musician, you listen to music a little differently than a novice. But I will say that was Ringo Starr the best drummer for the Beatles, or were the Beatles the best band for Ringo? I remember a story where Charlie Watts, who was a very fine English gentleman, used to dress in a suit, very posh guy. Mick Jagger called him like at 1 o'clock in the morning in the hotel room and said something like, you're my drummer. I don't like how this went. Blah, 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 blah. Charlie took a shower, got dressed in a suit, knocked on Mick's door, and punched him in the face and said, "You're my singer," and walked away. That's a true story. Yes, prayers out to Frank and Joe Coltrane. I pray you're okay, my friend. So, was Ringo Starr a good drummer? Hell yeah, he was. He was a Beatle. How could he have not have been? Thank you, everybody. I'll have my music shorts up in about 15 minutes. Thanks, everybody, for coming in. And Frank, take care of yourself, please. Keep me updated. God bless you guys. Take care.